Welcome everybody to Supporting Your Health Foundation. And this week we're going to tackle SolleMaca XD and supporting your hormonal system. As women, and of course men as well, this is something that as we change throughout life that can end up becoming an issue, and we end up dealing with things that we never thought that we would have to deal with. And so that's why it was interesting to me whenever I shared the little bit of information that I had regarding the hair and what my hairstylist shared with me. It all of a sudden dawned on me exactly why I was getting the results that I was and how timely that was that we were going to be talking about this tonight. So I'm excited to share this with you. Now we're going to start today off with a little story, a testimony from Gwen Roman. So Gwen, if you would take it away, we would love to hear what you have to say about the SolleMaca XD.
Okay. Well, to start off, I was on thyroid prescription medication for 18 years, and I didn't really want to continue on that medication forever. So at some point I asked my family doctor if I could discontinue it. And she wasn't comfortable with that, but she would lower the dose until she found a level that she was comfortable with. And that wasn't good enough for me. So we did lower the level. But in the meantime, I learned about maca and that it is an herb that can help to regulate your endocrine system. And thyroid is part of that. So I started taking SolleMaca XD every morning. But I still was on my medication. So I went to my gynecologist in January of 2017, and I told her that I wanted to stop taking my thyroid medication. And I was honest and told her that I'm taking maca for my thyroid. So she said, worst thing that could happen if I go off of it is my symptoms return, which she fully expected to happen. But she did say it would take 3 months to know for sure what my thyroid is doing with no medication. So I went off of it, and I continued my SolleMaca XD every morning. So 3 months later, I found an endocrinologist, and she ran some tests. She did an ultrasound of my thyroid, and she did a CBC full blood panel. And she fully expected to tell me that I needed medication again. But she was surprised. She said, your TSH is normal, your T4, your T3 is normal. Everything looks good. She said, you don't have hypothyroidism, you don't have Hashimoto's, your thyroid is functioning perfectly normally. But she wanted to see me 4 months later just to be sure, because she wasn't completely convinced that it would stay that way. So 4 months later, I went back. She repeated all the same tests and got all the same results. And she said, you have a perfectly healthy, functioning thyroid, and you don't have any diagnosis, and you don't need any medication. So a little over 2 years later, I went for more blood work, and they ran again a thyroid panel and said, your thyroid's perfectly normal. So it's been since January 2017 that I've been taking SolleMaca every day, and my thyroid has regulated, and I feel healthy. So for me, it really helped, and I'm going to continue. I hope that helps someone.
Wow, that is incredible. This is the first time I got to hear your actual story. That is so amazing. And I know a client right now that is looking specifically to hear for working with that condition. And you also explained something too, because they had been taking that without knowing they had the diagnosis 2 years previously, and found out that their numbers were running great. So now you've just given us the key to the mystery. Thank you so much, Gwen, for sharing that. I appreciate that tremendously.
You're welcome.
So we're talking about SolleMaca XD. And in the SolleMaca, you have the Vibrancy Blend, which has the yellow maca, the red maca, and the black maca. Of all those three, they work with libido, managing depression, actually helps with skin protection from the sun, which I thought was kind of interesting. Red maca is going to come in supporting bone and prostate health, whereas black maca works with the memory, cognitive support, libido, sleep. And kupuasu, which is a superfruit from the Amazon, is actually in the chocolate family, but it doesn't have the caffeine like chocolate, but it's got that depth of flavor. It is a powerful antioxidant. It's got a lot of amino acids. The SolleMaca also has Cordyceps in it. And Cordyceps to me are a very powerful powerful adaptogen. It is actually what I used with my grandmother 22 years ago when we moved here to Kingman. And at that point, she was 89 years old, and they'd given her 5 years to live because she had a respiratory condition where her lungs were filling up with scar tissue. And so my grandmother was on no medications. All I started her on was Cordyceps. Needless to say, the condition completely reversed itself, disappeared. And let's just say she didn't pass till she was 101, and she was still delivering Meals on Wheels at the age of 99. So I am a big believer in Cordyceps. Damiana is also in this formula, and it is helps with restoring an exhaustive state of body. So when I've seen people that have had adrenal fatigue, this is one of the reasons they like this formula. And I think it is this synergy of this whole blend. But as you know, we now have an additional component that we've added to this formula, and that is the Tribulus Terrestris. So if you notice, the upper right-hand corner there is actually what the fruit looks like. That is one of the parts that is used. The roots is also used, or are also used. It's also known as puncture vine, and you can kind of see that a lot of people would think this was kind of a plant that they didn't want in their yard, not realizing all the benefits that it has. And we're going to look at these, and these are benefits that have been documented by research. So the Tribulus, we've seen it work with muscle weakness. And so as a result with muscle weakness, we're seeing people bounce back faster from maybe their workouts, or in Troy's case, because we've started using the new formula with him. It's because I ordered it as soon as we got access to all of it. What we're finding is, as he does his rehab, which he's doing by physical labor and work around the house to rehab his back and everything from being so ill, even we were talking about it earlier today, he's noticing that his endurance is starting to kick back up, and his stamina, and he's being able to go longer than 15 minutes. He can go maybe an hour at a time before he has to rest for a while and be done for the day. That's huge for him. So I really am expecting his recovery to go leaps and bounds at this point. You can also see that Tribulus, and again, this is documented by research, helps with supporting the insulin and glucose, helps with regulating them. So making it, again, a very great plant to have in your arsenal, because think about one of the reasons we can fatigue. We can also fatigue because we're having issues with that glucose and insulin process. It has antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory properties. Has ability to increase your red and white blood cells. No matter whether you're male or female, it does help work with libido. And especially we're going to see for women with menopause and men in andropause, how that helps to get that back up. And one of the reasons it does is because it helps to support the normal production of testosterone, which can often start to decrease as we age. It is kidney protective. They've done some pretty impressive studies with this about how it can actually help the kidney to detox. This is another one I'm interested in seeing the long-term results with Troy on, because this guy's been through the ringer, but he's also had heavy metal issues as a result of some of the dental work that they did on him in the military. And the heavy metals moved into his kidneys. And at one point, I forget, I think we figured it out, it was like 14 years ago, he had like a 2-liter sized cyst on his kidney from where the heavy metals got in and started causing issues. So as a result, we started having some of these blood pressure issues. Well, they're saying the way that it works with the kidney, that it helps to balance out blood pressure as well. We talked about the testosterone levels. It also helps people that tend to get kidney stones because of how it helps to move the creatinine out of the kidneys. So this can work very effectively, especially for someone who is prone to this. It also improves the mood and self-confidence. That was one of the things I noticed right off the bat, and the tester that I got from Greg only had a week's worth of doses in it. And immediately within an hour, I could tell I just was like on top of the world as I was laying everything out. And this was a great time for me to have this, as you know, both Troy and I were bouncing back from the hit that it took on our life with this challenge that we dealt with. Also, it's liver protective, so it's going to raise glutathione levels. That means we're going to help with our detoxification process. And that's very important for anyone that's dealing with some serious illnesses. Helps to reduce your high cholesterol. Otherwise, and I've used this terminology because this is what it says in the research and it's documented. Otherwise, we'd be saying that's going to help bring your cholesterol into correct range. And one of the reasons it does is because of how it works with the liver and its bile production. We also have cardiovascular support. It helps to strengthen that heart. Now, for me and anybody that has got underlying thyroid issues, you've often heard me talk about how the thyroid and the heart are buddies, and then that also ties into adrenals. So one of the things I did notice is I was very aware for the first, at different points, I could feel the strength in my heart beating more regularly, more strongly. And I'd also dealt with detoxing vaccine residue actually out of the pericardial sac as well. And so coming back into an area that had been damaged and seeing it strengthen as in how I felt it and how it was responding to life was just phenomenal for me. So I'm very excited to have this plant as an addition. Now, I will also say one of the other benefits that I saw was how it helped with sleep too, because I've dealt with a couple different times once I went into menopause 6.5 years ago, dealing with some insomnia issues. And I tried, after talking with Dr. Allison, she'd asked me if I'd noticed differences in my sleep. And I said, well, no. So she said, well, she takes one before bed as well. So what I am doing now is I take 2 of the SolleMaca in the morning, and I take my other SolleMaca in the evening before bed, along with my Vertizymes and ProBio IQ. And I am getting very good, very restful sleep, which is huge for any one of us who've dealt with that in menopause. So at this point, I would like to invite Amy Hepner to unmute herself and share with us her story about how the SolleMaca XD has changed her life. So Amy, would you join us? Well, can't hear you, Amy, if you haven't unmuted. Have we got Amy there? Oh, I think I hear you, Amy. Are you there?
She just sent a message. She's not able. Hold on.
She's trying. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is she's trying to get on? Okay. So I'll move on and then we'll go back when she gets it figured out. Because she has got a great story. If nothing else, we have her call in so that we can hear it. Okay. So at this point, I do want to reference and remind everyone the importance of understanding how adaptogens work in the system. And we've covered this back in the beginning, but I think you're going to find how important this is with what I'm going to talk about with this combination. So the quote here from the book, it talks about adaptogen, the term adaptogen, referring to non-specific endocrine regulating, immune modulating effects of certain plants that increase a person's ability to maintain optimal balance in the face of physical or emotional stress. So if you look at the graph here, I just think this is fantastic, the comparison it's got. So your gray line, you can see is your normal stress response. So even how we dive down and we're going below, function. And then with stress, we go over the other direction. And then afterwards, we kind of crash. Kind of think about it like the way some people respond to sugar or caffeine, which of course does cause a stress reaction in the body. But that's a visible way or a way that people can understand and think about it. When we look at the blue line here, it's saying, oh, we're not going to have so low of a low. We're going to go up higher, but it's not going to, or high, but not as high as with the stress reaction. And it's more controlled and more healthy. And over time, notice how it's sustained. So imagine we're keeping these in the system on a regular basis. So I want you to keep in mind here that no matter what, that the adaptogens are working to bring the body back into line from whether or not we have an overactive or underactive part, just like Gwen was talking about with the thyroid. And no matter whether or not we have an overactive or underactive response to anything in life, no matter what's going on, adaptogens help to bring us in line. So what does this look like? How do you know if SolleMaca XD is right for you? Because when you look at different things, you start to notice there's so many different things. We could be looking about, here's all the signs of too much or too little estrogens. Here's the signs of too much or too little progesterone. And too much or too little of the DHEA and testosterone or cortisol. Or even those of you who know me and have talked to me and I've worked with you and I've said, hey, do we have any cherryangiomas that have showed up on your torso? All of these things could make you start scratching your head going, oh my gosh, what in the world am I supposed to do? Well, remember, adaptogens help to bring the body into balance regardless. And we had that perfect story that Gwen shared with that. Even with the multiple testing, we saw over time that it held its own. So we don't have to necessarily know what the specific balance is and what's going on with the different hormones. We trust the adaptogen's ability, and these specific adaptogens that are chosen for this formula do help to work specifically on that hormonal system and parts of the body that are affected by the hormones to bring it into balance. So it's taken the guesswork out of it. So at this point, I would going to turn this over to Greg here. Let me stop sharing the screen. And I've got to make Greg a co-host here.
You know what, Valerie? If you don't have to today,
Okay.
please, can I ask you a favor? Can you scroll back to the one slide you had that showed the ingredients of the vibrancy blend?
I can do that.
And by the way, hello everybody. I've loved tonight's learning from Valerie and from Gwen.
Okay.
Yeah, what is it, 3? Number 3.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Well, fun with Valerie with Zoom. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Valerie. That's perfect. Because, I mean, Valerie had asked me to talk a little bit about the materials that we use, the actual nature of the maca powders, what made us choose what we chose, and what our philosophy is there. And I know from time to time, maybe pretty often, I mention that and we talk about it, but it's really key. And it probably is part of every explanation of every formula, because there are 2 things about this that I wanted to just review today. I mean, one was, Valerie mentioned we added Tribulus Terrestris. And some people said, okay, well, did anything change? Did you reduce something to make room for the Tribulus? Which is a great question, right? Because the formula was already fantastic, really literally already fantastic. Like Gwen, I've been using it ever since we came out, I would say almost every day, nearly every day. There are rare days that it would just be if I forget. And that's pretty rare because I keep bottles wherever on my desk and at home, Yes, Tammy, by the way, at bedtime, absolutely. For me, it does not at all affect ability to go to sleep. And in fact, I don't actually I take a couple other things with it when I go to bed. It's like Valerie said, it's such a great normalizer. It does the things we need because it's adaptogen based. I mean, in this case, you look at the herbs in there, the 3 macas, and then you've got cordyceps, which are absolutely considered all those adaptogens. Damiana, maybe, and kupuasu, maybe. It's so adaptogenic. It's not one of those formulas where we have 1 or 2 adaptogens, then a bunch of other herbs. that you kind of wonder, will they do quite what the adaptogens do? They have their complementary reason. It's nearly purely adaptogenic. And the two things I wanted to mention, number one, yes, we always go for the whole plant extracts. Emphasis on whole plant and emphasis on extract because we can concentrate it so that a sufficient amount matching what we all view as a greater need in our nutritional gaps in today's age. And maybe there were always great needs in certain areas throughout history, but there are certainly great needs, and just a little bit of herb powder is not generally going to get it done nutritionally for people. That's why we concentrate, but we endeavor to concentrate the balance of the plant as best as you can. And if we ever use extracts standardized to a certain component, like we do in Solflex PI, for instance, the turmeric is standardized to an amount of curcumin, but we make sure we have the rest of the turmeric in there as well. We don't ever just take something out. You'll never ever find that. And that is so popular. It's the thing. It's the king. If you want to go down to all the industry supply shows, which you have to prove to get in that you're manufacturing, 90% of the booths, 90% have their PhD, their doctors. They're showing you how they've been able to pull out this active component right here. We've done these tests and we've shown that it does this and this and this. Wonderful. We're taking, I know that's maybe a little harsh that I say it, but you're just taking herbs and making them more drug-like. And I know that they help people, and I'm all for that. Of course we're for that. But it changes a plant from doing what Valerie described to forcing something when we pull it drastically out of balance. And in the industry, it's too tempting with the technology of today to concentrate it up 40%, then 60. Oh, there's an 80% concentrate of this one thing. That's not at all like you find it in the plants now. And besides that, we don't really know all the cofactors for different nutrients. We don't know things that need to go along with it in a similar proportion or in some amount, which is why you'll find that sometimes when we do use standardized extracts, standardized to a level, we'll nearly always include raw powder with it. And that's one of the reasons we do that. In the case of SolleMaca, you have these 3 macas. And you have some people sometimes saying, oh, they're all the same, they're just different levels. They're really not. They contain different amounts of active components. They are very different. We were very familiar with yellow maca before this formula. And we don't ever put fillers in anything. So when we first made SolleMaca with yellow, red, and black maca, and cupuaçu, and cordyceps and damiana, and we had an effective dose for 3 capsules. That was sort of the effective dose amount, or a full dose. Effective, it depends on the individual, right? But a full dose on the bottle. We did not want to, we still had some space in the capsule. So we put a little extra of the cupuaçu powder, being a general and a wonderful, like they mentioned in Brazil, it's a pharmacy and a fruit. And we put a little extra yellow maca powder because we didn't want to put fillers. So when we added the Tribulus Terrestris, we knew we had some extra cupuaçu powder and yellow maca powder. So we did not touch the concentrated extracts of damiana, cordyceps, and the yellow, black, and red maca extracts. We made a little bit of space with the 2 powders, which we included in the amounts we did to not use any fillers and to have a full capsule. So there's the answer in case anyone wonders, hey, how'd you add the Tribulus Terrestris? Because Valerie talked about the tribulus, the root and the fruit. And if you look on the bottle, and that's exactly what it says Tribulus Terrestris extract and whole fruit powder, because we wanted to include both because they both have their strengths, the fruit and the root. So that's kind of my explanation for today. I will say this, aside from choosing extracts, this product, okay, what would typically be available in the market would probably have less than half the amount of black and red and yellow extract than we put. What we've typically done, I can name several products. We'll look at an effective amount, look at studies, look at what's typically used. Very often we will double it. And I know that sounds really, I don't know, really? Why are you doing that? Because they're adaptogens, and we love the breadth of nutrition. And our hope is that people earlier in the process of using it in their nutrition will begin to feel the change and take heart with that and stick with it, because it's about the daily habit. And so often being around herbs, as a bunch of us have for many years, we see a lot of people who try it a little, maybe see a little, and they kind of just somewhere get in their minds, it's not going to work for me, or even worse, herbs don't work. Well, they always work. You just need to have the right ones in the right amounts. And so that's why we use adaptogen-centric formulas, and also why we try to use a variety of adaptogens. In the case of maca, we had this great variety of 3 different types, which you could almost not find in the marketplace. It was very expensive. Once we launched it, a year later, it more than doubled in cost. I don't know, Valerie will probably remember. We had to move the price a little. We did not double our price. But because there is more attention to the 3 types now, and it's not the yellow maca is sort of the commonly harvested. So we like to give you the best that we can find from kind of all around the planet. And this one's very heavy on South America, Peru and Brazil, although we've got, and then of course Damiana, which is actually North America, but very common in Mexico. You really just have Cordyceps from Asia. And so I do love this formula. I take it every day too. We recently listened to another webinar a week ago. She was featuring, Marcella Endrick was featuring the SolleMaca. And man, I was just like tonight, blown away at the wonderful, wonderful stories. In fact, she was telling us about a couple in their late 60s who didn't want to come on and share their story because they were a little embarrassed because it was libido centered. But they shared exactly how many the husband was having erectile dysfunction, and he what it took him was 4 in the morning and 4 about 2 p.m. He was doing 8 of these for a period of time, and I can't remember, maybe 2-3 months. Now they're back to a normal situation, completely normal, healthy in that whole area. They just didn't want to get on and talk about it. And he's just taking a couple a day now. He's not taking that. So maca is something where you can try different amounts at different levels. It's as Valerie said, it seeks to shore up what is weak in the body because they're adaptogens. There are lots of studies that show it does that with hormones. That's why so many different glandular related things you're gonna see change there. And don't be afraid to use the level you need, and then listen to your body, and you can back it down once you get to where you need to be. Anyway, Valerie, that was probably longer than you wanted, but there's not my 2 cents, my 8.5 cents on it.
Thank you, Greg. All right. Let's see if I can quickly get to my slides here without going through everything again. There we go. Oh, no, it didn't let me do it. Well, it's okay. Par for the course for today. There we go. So I like to, whenever we get the opportunity, throw in something we call thinking outside the capsule. And Ashley Branham, I think it was a couple years ago, came up with this great recipe that she has used for she calls a Soul Facial Moisturizer. And so she uses the Solflex AC Cream, capsule of the SolleMaca XD, and 2 drops of the Balance. And what she has said that she's seen as results for herself and other people is it's helped to reduce sun damage and lines on the forehead. So I thought this was a great little recipe to have and to be able to share for people. Let's see here. So people at this point always say, well, where do I start with this? Well, we've talked about the importance of foundation with the Bella Health package. and how these were original products that Soul started with, and really they are foundational products in my opinion and mind. So having the ProBio IQ, the Vera Designs, the Cinemate, and the Soul Vital, and how well that they all work together for getting the digestion up and running, helping to get the pH addressed. Again, the digestive tract with the enzymes and also the good bacteria, and then adding that SolleMaca XD on it. Yes, lots of times people start to notice results fairly quickly, but ultimately what is most important is that we stay consistent, because with consistent use, over time, what we find is adaptogens people get a better and better and stronger response. And just like Greg was saying with this gentleman, after time, he did not need to take what I call a loading or a therapeutic dose anymore. He was able to then maintain with a lower dose because he had invested in his health, and both with the time and in consistency with taking the product, so that he was getting the results, and now he could just maintain with the 2 capsules a day. So again, talking about foundation, I think it's really important to realize the importance of this when we're working and addressing our health. And just like this quote here, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you're going to have a strong superstructure. So again, getting in and laying that foundation with that Bella Health program, it is fantastic and outstanding to do. And then you can add in that SolleMaca XD and keep it going strong. So with that, I do want to point out that next week's topic will be on colon detoxing, and we'll be talking about when, how, and why. So at this point, I want to stop the screen share and to make certain that I also check with Shauna. I can see Amy there, but Amy can't get on, or we can't hear her. Is that correct?
Does she need to call in on a different, she said she got a list of numbers, so she just picked the first one and she can hear everything, but we can't hear her.
I've not experienced with that. Greg, do you know?
Say that. Oh, I could see when I was looking at her, she was getting on her phone, right, Shauna?
Yes.
And it just didn't, it's either she doesn't have it on speaker on her phone. She could try it on speaker. Or
Okay.
sometimes I turn my phone on silent. Or she just didn't have, sometimes you got the volume all the way down on your phone. So there's a couple you could try. And by the way, yeah, maybe one of those things will work. Valerie, I did see Ashley chatted in a nice comment. If you want, do you want me to read it in the chat, or do you want to read it about the SolleMaca? Ashley Brand.
Yeah, I see it right here. That's perfect. It says, this was Ashley, the one who gave us that cream recipe too. She says, thank you, Valerie. I was on birth control for 7 years for hormonal health. It was all I knew to do at the time, and it makes me sad. Although I'm thankful I found Soul. Self-educating, I got off birth control, found SolleMaca about 2 years later. My cycle regulated in 1 month back to what it was when I was in my early 20s, and cycles became enjoyable as opposed to painful. How exciting that is. Think about that with our young women and everything. So, by the way, guys, while we hang on for Amy, those of you that need to go, I will make certain that you know that we'll be stopping the recording. But you can hang around, we can chat and ask questions. I know it is a holiday, and I'm so glad people got to join us. I hope that we get Amy squared away here, because I know her story is fantastic. But I do want to honor the fact that I know it's a holiday here.
Well, try clicking on participants as the host and going to Amy. Sometimes there's a little thing that says ask to turn on sound or ask to, but yeah, I definitely see the line through her little cell telephone. Yeah, you have to connect to audio, and she may not have, when she logged in, you have to allow it, or when she clicks the link.
Yeah, it won't let me do anything with her.
Okay. Oh, hang on. It looks like Amy, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh my goodness, Amy, we've got you.
Woohoo!
You have the floor, Amy. We would love to hear your story, my dear. Oh no. She was there. Oh, no.
Could be cell coverage sometimes.
Yeah.
On these busy days, I've noticed like with being Labor Day and everything.
Okay.
Here we go. You there, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm happy to be on the call. Thank you very much. And so I started taking the SolleMaca about 3.5 years ago, close to 4 actually. I, due to medical reasons, had a hysterectomy at 27, and I was dealing with a lot of imbalances, and I was pretty stubborn about not wanting to do synthetic hormones. And a friend introduced me to the SolleMaca, and I thought at that point, you know, I was desperate. And so I tried it, and it didn't take long for me to notice a difference. And now that I've been on it, I will not go without it. Absolutely will not. I still am not on synthetic hormone, and I feel great. And I believe that it actually does help with my adrenal burnout. I suffer from that as well. So if I take my herbs like I should, and remember to take them on a regular basis, I take them at the same time every day, I feel fantastic. There has been a couple times when I've missed a couple, and it doesn't take long for that adrenal burnout to kind of rear its ugly head. So then I think, what did I not do? And then I just take them. And so I am very, very happy. It's been life-changing for me. So as long as they're available, I will be taking them.
Fantastic, Amy. I'm so excited and happy for you. It's nice to have your life back, isn't it?
Yes. So very, very, and I'm thrilled about the new ingredient. I was curious about that. I am very sensitive. So I was a little leery when I found out they were changing it, because sometimes change is not, my body doesn't like that very much. But knowing, you know, with some other physical challenges that I have with muscle tone and muscle weakness, you know, with having mild CP, I am stoked. So hopefully my body will accept these changes with grace, and we'll go from there. I can't wait to give you an update in a month or so.
Fantastic. I'm counting on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear.